Got it.
All right, so here I am with Matt Woody Woodworth and Brian Dagenais. Brian and I have been friends for 8 years, and Woody and I are working together as well and having a good time doing it. We're going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and we're recording it for that. And I'm just going to share my screen with Woody and with Brian. But also with the recording, obviously. So give me 1 second here. I think this is the, all right. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of background, and just so you know, at the bottom of the hour, Nick Cripps, who's a realtor that, Woody, if you ever did want to have a deal-making realtor, Nick is the best negotiator on our team. We've got D.A. McMillan, we've got James McCune, we've got Nick Cripps, and we've got others. But probably of all of us, including myself, Nick is the best negotiator. So when he comes on, I think you should take his contact information as well, Woody, just in case you wanted some help with that land deal that we're talking about. If you've got it, everything's going according to Hoyle, no problem. But if you need a really tough negotiator, Nick is it. All right. And he's going to come on the call, because if we're going to pry loose this plaza, Brian, we have to pry it loose from people who are not easy to deal with.
Okay.
All right. So this is near and dear to my heart, the Dunrobin Village Plaza. This is the plaza I built in the 1980s. You know it, eh, Brian?
Yeah, I've driven by it a handful of times.
A handful of times. And so it was very, very successful. And Woody, I've done most of the development in Dunrobin Village. I built the trails of Dunrobin. I did about half of Casey Creek. I did Dunrobin Lake. I did a lot of work on Dunrobin Springs. So in terms of this village, and do you know where Dunrobin is, Woody?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just north of Canada. You know where Newbridge is, or it used to be Newbridge. I don't know what it is today. They change their name every few months. But it's just north of Canada. So it's part of West Carleton. And I built this, I think it was 86 or 87 when I built it, and it's about 10,000 square feet. It was quite a nice plaza for its time. You can see down here we had Sammy's Pizza. It was a very successful pizza place. Then we had a Canada Post. We had a chiropractor here. We had a beer store. We had a LCBO. You all know what a LCBO is, right?
Never heard of it.
You never heard of it, yeah. Never been there, right? Okay, never admit anything, Woody. And then we had Dunrobin Meat and Grocery, Deli, and Bakery. It was, I said it was circa 1986, but I think it actually was finished in 87. And one of the things I learned, so here's Sammy's Pizza. One of the things I learned about this business, because I was in this business, building plazas, renting them, et cetera, was that if you added some entertainment uses to a plaza, your sales would go up. And I remember talking to Sam Musa, who ran the pizza place. I said, I'm going to build a beach volleyball court next to the plaza. He said, oh, that's nice. In fact, you might even be able to see it here. No, I guess not. This photograph, it doesn't have it in there. So I owned a sand pit, and I brought sand up, and I made a beautiful beach volleyball court here, And I said, Sam, you're going to rent it from me. He said, what the hell do I need a volleyball court for? I said, well, because I think if people play volleyball, they'll drink more beer and eat more pizza. And he said, how much are you going to charge me in rent? I said, aha, you asked the right question. I said, 5 large pizzas a summer. Oh, he said, I can afford that. So every summer, I got 5 large pizzas. In the second year that he operated it, his sales went up 12%. He started to run leagues. He really got into it. He started to run ladies' leagues, kids' leagues, mixed leagues. The mixed leagues, I think, were the best because, young men and young women, or maybe middle-aged men and women, there are not that many places you can go in West Carleton to meet a nice young woman or a nice middle-aged woman, or vice versa. So anyway, it worked out really well. Today, you wouldn't put volleyball here, Brian. You'd put pickleball.
Yeah,
pickleball's the thing. So this is what happened in 2018, Woody. The tornado. I am the only person who owns property in Arlington Woods and Dunrobin where the tornado touched down in 2 places. I had buildings in both places, and they got whacked, right? So I said to my wife, we're special, honey. I bet you I'm the only one in Ottawa who had property in those two locations. They were the epicenter of the tornado. But I had sold this Plaza, Woody, in the early 90s or late 80s because I was putting money together to put into the hockey team. And unfortunately, Brian, as you know, money goes into the hockey team but never comes out. So
Yeah.
all the money that I went into the hockey team. But anyway, so I sold it to two fellows from India, and I believe they were from India, and they owned it. Now, they were not particularly good owners. They were like NHL clubs in reverse. They loved money coming to them, but you know, in terms of maintaining the building or patching the parking lot if it needed it, they were not really keen on that. So anyway, the plaza was certainly, you know, any building you have to maintain it, and they were not really maintaining it. But anyway, so it got whacked and it was condemned and it had to come down. So anyway, the insurance company and the owner and the construction guys in 2019 started to rebuild it. And they rebuilt it. And every time I go to my barn dominium, Woody, and Brian, you've been at my barn dominium. Every time I go there, I drive by this thing has sat like this for 3 years. And you know, as somebody who's built the village, it's near and dear to my heart. And I called up the guy who has it for lease. I think it's Bill Edelson. And I had, in the last 2 years, I've had two tenants who wanted to go in here. And I called them up and I said, I have one guy, he wanted to do a food business here. And the other guy, oh yeah, he wanted to sell boats here. And the first time, Brian, I called for, you know, to inquire and submit an offer to lease. I didn't get an answer back for 12 months.
Wow.
I've never seen, I mean, Brian, if somebody wants to rent one of your apartments, how long does it take you to respond?
Never more than 12 weeks.
Yeah, that was a joke, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, 12 minutes maybe.
Maybe 12 minutes. You know, in my case, I give everybody, I try to give everybody same day or next day response time. So if you didn't hear from me the same day, you'd hear from me the next day in probably 99% of the time. So anyway, so it's been vacant like this. And then when I took these pictures, which was like a week or two ago, the vandals are getting at it, right?
Yeah.
You can see that they're breaking windows, etc. And I just put that, I couldn't believe it. And the second time, Brian, I did get an answer. I got a phone call, and the leasing agent said, "Yeah, he'll get back to me," and that was 2 months ago. So the first time it took him a year to get a year. And by that time, the food guy had gone on to other locations. So anyway, yeah. So I think it was Bill I talked to. There you go. So what I like about it, Brian and Woody, you know, we talked about it this morning. I look for things that nobody else wants. Nobody else wants this thing. Trust me. So I did get a hold of Bill finally, and I asked him why the heck it's just sitting there empty. You know, I mean, geez, I could fill it up without really breaking much of a sweat. And he said, well, we haven't finished the building. I said, yeah, you know, breaking news. I know that. I go by it, you know, every few weeks. And he said that what has happened is there's now a big fight going on between the construction company who walked off the job, the insurance company who got fed up, and the owners who are not easy to deal with. All right, I get that. You know, they have it's a cultural thing, I think. And so anyway, it's just sitting there. And so what I did is I did a little bit of an analysis, okay, and it's got 8 bays. It's about 10,000 square feet. Each bay is about 1,250. Some bays are bigger than others, so I just was fooling around. It's about 2 acres, and you could probably get in Canada, so 8 minutes to the south in Canada, for retail space like this, you could probably get $22 to maybe $30 a square foot triple net. But I went with $16 for this place, okay? Because I think it'll be lower. I think that's a triple net rent that you can get. So it would generate $160,000 a year. I put in a big vacancy allowance of 12%. I don't think it'd be that high. Like when I built this thing, I've never had a vacancy. Well, I've had vacancies, but I've never had a vacancy for very long. But I put in 12%. So it gave me a net operating income of about 140 grand. I went with a cap rate of 8%, which means that if this building were full of tenants, we might pay, if we were going to buy it, 1.7 million. And this here, Brian and Woody, is just a complete guesstimate, because there's work to be done to finish this, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so I put in, you know, $550,000 to actually finish the damn thing, and another 100,000 of contingency, so about 650,000. But that's a guess. I have no idea. So you deduct that from your fair market value because somebody's got to put up that money. So I think the thing is worth 1.1 million. That's what I think it's worth. Whether they'd sell it for 1.1 million, I don't know. Just so you saw the picture of the plaza. Well, right next door, there's the city has created a little park, and if we were able to buy the thing, I would go to the city and say, look, this park is virtually empty all the time. What if could we, for $2 a year, could we lease this land to put a pickleball court here, maybe 2 pickleball courts? I'm sure the city will agree. And if they don't, I'll find out whoever the local councilor is, and I'll have them replaced. So I won't get, you know, what did the Godfather say? I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Yeah.
That's me. Woody and Brian, I've done that. If a councilor, you know, councilor and MP or MPP crosses me, they might live to regret it. So I think that I'll get that approved, but maybe not. But I think so. These are the 2 young. They were young women then. They're middle-aged women now. These are the 2 young women who at one time ran the Dunrobin Meat and Grocery. It's Cindy, Delahunt, and Julie. This is Julie. That's Cindy. It made that little plaza made them both of them millionaires, and they're friggin' pissed that they can't you know, they've been out of the business now for 4 years, right? I'm not sure that they'll go back to it, but they were really pissed about it. This is just you know, for you guys, some of the stuff that I've done in Dunrobin. I did all of the houses in the Trails of Dunrobin with Len Fraser. He's now passed away. I did this subdivision over here called Kennedy Meadows. I did about half the homes over here in Casey Creek. Obviously, I built the plaza. I built Blue Heron Storage. I created a couple more commercial lots here. I think one is for a vet, and the other one is for, I think, like a car wash. Just so you guys know, this is the 2 acres here where the plaza is. I don't know if you can see it, guys, but there's the plaza is on the aerial photograph here. It's got 2 acres. There is vacant land next door. It's also zoned commercial here. I think that's another 2 acres, here another 2 acres, and here just under 2 acres. So there is more commercial land. These 2 lots are owned by a client of mine by the name of Dr. Lee. He's a dentist. And this one is owned, I think, by another family from India. So that gives you some sense of what's going on in the village. Yeah, this is just a little bit closer here. Look at it. And one of the things that I find interesting is that this plaza has access to Dunrobin Road, which is the main road, but also has access to Porcupine Trail. And I think, because I did the zoning on this a long time ago now, I believe that it might be possible. I'm not saying it is, but I believe that I added accessory residential, so you can actually build a house back here as part of the overall property. And you know, if we were able to do it, we would put a kind of a high ranch bungalow here facing Porcupine Trail. You'd have, you know, it's a duplex. You'd have a 3-bedroom here and a 2-bedroom down below, and it would face Porcupine Trail. And there's a nice park here that I put in, including you know, sand pit and some sand box or whatever, and some other stuff here. So there's a park here. There is a high school down the road. You know that, right, Brian? There's the West Carrollton High School, which is, and the students used to walk down here to the every day to Sammy's Pizza. That was a big, you know, high school students are always hungry. So there you go. So that's kind of what I did. This is the village of Dunrobin as it was defined by the township of West Carrollton, which doesn't exist anymore. And there you can see the subdivisions I worked on. And then I wanted to show you this. So this is now a little bit of a different scale. Here's, again, the Trails of Dunrobin. There's the plaza again. Casey Creek is here. And this is Dunrobin Lake. And my barndominium, Matt, is down here. Okay, the barn is down here. And this is a lake that I excavated and sold the sand. It's about 22 or 23 acres. And you can see I dug a lot of ponds too. So people have houses next to these ponds. That's Dunrobin Lake. It's about 30 homes. And then Dunrobin Springs is about another 25, I think, in there. So what else do I have? I think that's enough. You guys get the, no, I had one more thing I wanted to show you. I can't remember. I think that's enough. So what I was thinking, and assuming that Nick shows up, because I know he had another meeting at 2:30. But Brian, what I was thinking is that we need somebody to lead the parade. That would be
Okay.
you,
All right.
not me. I'm too busy. I've got too much on the boil. But I would like to participate, but I thought you would be the project lead. Maybe Woody and his wife Michelle would participate, or maybe not. But this is certainly a learning opportunity for Woody. And you know, we might make an offer on the plaza, and we might get shot down because it's not for sale, but it's been sitting there. And you know, for myself, Brian, this is just me talking. I don't care if it's subject to litigation. I suspect there is litigation going, because when you got an insurance company, a contractor, and an owner all arguing, usually it leads to litigation. But I don't care about that. If we came in with an offer that you thought was reasonable, with some conditions in it, obviously, we would put in an offer. And maybe that's a way out for everybody, for the insurance company, for the contractor, and for the owner.
Yeah, I guess if the purchase basically require, like, obviously I would think, I'm not a lawyer obviously, but I would think that the purchase would probably end the litigation, right? Like the purchase probably wouldn't go through unless or until the litigation was over. So I would think that if right.
I would differ, because I think if you put in an offer and there's some litigation going on, which I'm not sure that there is, but if there is, what it will probably become is subject to legal review and judicial review. And what often will happen is a judge will seize upon that as an opportunity to resolve the matter.
Right.
And what he or she might do. Hi, Nick, how are you doing? Nick, are you there? He's working on it. So what can happen, I mean, I've done this before, is that the judge seizes on it as an opportunity. Look, we've got an offer from a third party, so the insurance company can just write a check, you know, to get out of this, right? So maybe they write a check for a few $100,000, and the contractor maybe is owed some money, and somehow or other they resolve it, right? But from our point of view, we don't care. I mean, I frankly don't care. I would we'd put in the offer, and if the parties can't agree, a judicial review. I mean, I actually did one of those, actually in Dunrobin, obviously on a different property, and it did take me 2.5 years, Brian, to resolve it, but it resolved in my favor.
Okay, well, I'm game. So I mean, how do you see this working? So obviously you'd have to get an agreement in place, understand understand at least a little bit the surface, at least at the surface, the liability issue, just to kind of, okay,
Oh, yeah.
You know, understand that at least as best we can.
This
Get an offer.
This requires a lot more due diligence than just
typical,
buying a house in Barhaven. You know, you'd want to make sure you get a clean title with no litigation. You'd want this is not subject to building inspection. This requires a skilled contractor. I bought properties like this before, Brian. This requires a skilled contractor to go in there and literally take the place apart and say, okay, we got to fix the septic system, we got to fix the well, the water supply. We've got you know, fucking mice or raccoons in the attic. I mean, who knows what's going on in there, right?
Yeah, there may be new problems if it's been kind of sitting there dormant,
sitting there for
less.
3 years with no heating, right? No heat on it. So it requires. But Len Fraser has now passed away. As you know, he and I did a lot of the work in Dunrobin and many other subdivisions together. He was a wonderful man. I miss him. And Len and I, we made a speciality, Brian, out of buying unfinished homes. And what we would do is, I mean, the friggin' banks and lenders in this town had me on speed dial, because I was a realtor, because the Sens had folded, or at least had gone bankrupt, and so I was a realtor. And you know, I had Len, who was very, very experienced constructor. And so Len could go in there with his team and he could analyze it. And so we were buying, you know, lots of people have ambitions but don't know what they're doing. So they would half finish a house. Nobody would touch that. But Len and I, so we were buying houses for less than the value of the lot that were 3/4 finished. Some of them were like 80% finished. And we were making ridiculous amounts of money. Back then, we were making like 150, sometimes $180,000 a door when builders like Mattamy Homes and Minto were making 60 grand. We were making like 3 times the amount. And what we would do is we would not sell them. We would fix them up and we would rent them.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Well, so I mean, in this case, I guess you could have a situation where, you know, you have an agreement. Maybe it's a long enough agreement where the close date they allow us to get tenants at least lined up in advance.
Yep.
Right. So you're not sitting there like, I don't know how long it would take to get tenants, whether it's a month or 6 months, but in any case, if you can kind of do that in advance of closing before your first mortgage payment, that's obviously
a great point.
You might be in a position where maybe not on day one. Well, it depends on the renos, right? How long it takes. I guess not on day one, but maybe 3 months in, 4 months in, whatever. And
I think it would have to be a relatively long closing, simply because there's so much work to be done here. It's not. Unfortunately, it's not like buying a nice house in Barrhaven, right? Yeah. Nick, are you with us now? Nick, can you unmute yourself, please? Nick, are you going to unmute yourself? Holy smokes. I guess not. Well, you can see that Nick looks a little different than he used to, right, Brian? Anyway, so Woody, what do you think of the idea?
So far, I'm all ears. I'm a sponge, but I like the idea of it. If there's an opportunity that supports the strategy that you and I are putting in place, I'm all in. I love this.
Yeah. Something else too that I thought of, Woody, that I think I would do is, while we might be able to add an accessory residential use, you know, like another house, what I might be inclined to do is take a small corner of the plaza and build like a 500 square foot, 1-bedroom superintendent apartment right in the plaza. Like, just take a corner of the plaza and actually build an apartment there. Because I think it does allow, I checked the zoning, it does allow accessory residential. And there's no better security, in my experience, Brian and Woody, than having somebody live on site.
Yeah, makes sense.
I can tell you that if I owned that plaza, even if I was in a dispute with the insurance company and the constructor, I would never allow my plaza to sit there without supervision. And I mean, I would. You got a parking lot there. You've got all kinds of opportunities there. I'd have a tiny house on that site in a few days. With somebody living on site. I did that for my barn dominium. You remember I showed you that, Woody, and I'll show you the picture in a minute, Brian. I have somebody, George Williams and his wife, Brett Peters. I have them living right next to the barn dominium now, Brian, in a quote unquote tiny home. And,
right.
I mean, you can't, and they pay, it's a negative cost security. They pay me $500 a month to park there.
No, I think it's a great idea.
So I would do that. And what I would do is I would have a site superintendent live on site. I would charge him $1,600 a month for his micro suite, but then I'd give him back, $500 or $600 a month to do the site superintendent, because people are so desperate for rentals. It makes sense. So I would probably do that. And I would do, if I didn't do that like immediately, I would certainly put, I'm very plugged into the tiny house movement. I would certainly put a tiny house on there in a second. And I don't care what the city says, man. I would say, look, I'm allowed to have a night fucking watchman watching my property. There's no way I'm not going to do that. So if we did buy it, I'd wheel a tiny house on there like in a second, and then they would pay us $500 a month, and they'd be happy.
No, I think it's a great idea. And I'm thinking, like what you said earlier about the school nearby, and if you get some sort of restaurant in there, right? Like you said, like pizzeria or whatever, maybe get a chip wagon on site over the warm months.
It's interesting that you say that, Brian, because I did have, I had a third group that wanted to go in there. I don't know if you remember him. He used to run a restaurant in Stittsville called Isaac's, very high end. He has I don't even want to call it a food truck. He has like this mobile canteen that's unbelievable. And he wanted to park there park his canteen there and serve from there this summer. And I offered that to them too, and I never heard back.
No, wow.
I mean,
You would think with a school that close, with, you know, I call it a chip wagon, whatever, food truck and a pizza shop or whatever, the parking lot would be packed, right? During, you know, from April till October for those, you know.
His name is Khalid Gadban, and the truck is unbelievable. It's just absolutely beautiful. And, you know, he would have, the place would have been packed.
Yeah, even on a weekend, like, you know, you put in, like, I don't know how easy it is to deal with the city, but if you did a pickleball, you did, what do you call it, like a jungle gym for the kids, like for Saturdays, Sundays, and that, like the plaza would be hopping, I would think.
Well, the other thing that Nick, are you with us now? Come on, Mr. Cripps, make it happen.
Oh,
Nick, are you there? Oh, shoot.
Hear me?
Nick, yes, finally. Oh, my goodness. Are you there? Oh, there he is.
I'm out in Hammond, so the internet connection isn't the greatest.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Nick, can you see your handsome friend, Bruce?
I can now, yeah.
Okay, and we've got Brian on the call, and for some reason his camera's not working. And we've also got Matt Woody Woodworth. So think Woody Woodpecker, but that's Matt. But everybody calls him Woody. Okay.
Nice to meet you.
All right.
And Nick, let me think about this for a second. So Woody is a real estate investor, and he's coming into the business in a bigger way now. And what we've been talking about for about 45 minutes now is maybe putting in an offer on the Dunrobin Village Plaza. And I guess you know it pretty well, right?
I do, yeah.
And you're familiar with the fact that it's been empty and standing there empty for 3 years now?
I wasn't aware of that until you told me this morning. I knew it was it was being rebuilt after the tornadoes. The last person I know that was talking about it was another client of ours, the chiropractor office that was in there.
Yeah, the chiropractor. So
I didn't realize it was still kind of in a standstill.
Yeah, so I'll just I'm going to share a couple of things, but first, Brian, I'm going to share with you. This is the barn dominium. And Woody, the reason I think of Woody and Woody Woodpecker is, can you see that my barn dominium has some gashes over here? Like there's little bits missing. We have had, this summer, we've had an invasion of woodpeckers who've been drilling holes in my barn dominium. So this fall, and next month, in fact, I got to get one of those lifts, and I got to plug all these holes because winter's coming, right? So there you go. So Brian, you remember the barn, right?
Yeah, I've been there 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, I've turned it into workshops, and it's become a really, really successful thing. But then this summer, what I did was George Williams and his wife, Brett Peters, they said, can we park our tiny house next to your barn? I said, yeah, I guess I'll charge you for that. And he said, how much? I said, I don't know, $500. He said, deal. So I guess I probably priced it a little bit low, but it doesn't matter. I'm okay with that. So then he shows up with this quote unquote, Brian, tiny house. It's friggin' 55 feet long. And you can see the barn is here, and he's parked it here. And I'm super happy to have him there. And he and his wife are lovely. And they provide security, as well as having, I mean, think about it. He works for a construction company, and she works for a jeweler's. Between the two of them, they probably have $150,000 a year in family income, which is great. And their cost of living is $500 a month, so that's pretty cool. So what I was thinking, Brian and Woody, is that if we were successful in nabbing the plaza, I'm not going to put something that size on the plaza. Right. That's ridiculous. But I'm very plugged in, as I said earlier on the recording here. And Nick, we are recording this, just so you know.
Yeah, so just before you go any further, Bruce, if you lose me again, like I'm in and out here, so I will just send me the recording so I can
Yeah,
grab notes.
I think you should do it. But just before I hope we don't lose you, and I'll tell you why. So just give me one more second there, and you'll see where we're going here in a minute. Darn, where is it? Well, I don't know. I'm going to share this screen with you. I'm going to get out of this. And I want to go, oops, get rid of that. Bear with me, please. So what I want to show you before we lose you, Nick, is this. So you remember, Nick, this is what the plaza looked like, right, when I built it. And then this is what it looked like when the tornado hit it. And this is what it looks like today. Are you able to hear me okay, Nick? Nick?
I'm a little behind on your slideshow, but yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay, so my understanding is that this building here has been subject to dispute between the insurance company, the owner, and the contractor. The contractor walked off the job, did not finish, and you can see on the screen here that there's some vandalism that's going on as well. Bill Edelson has it for lease right now, and I've talked to Bill. I didn't talk to him about buying it. I just talked to him about leasing, and I've had 3 groups that wanted to lease space here. One of them was a food use, one of them was the food canteen, and I don't remember what the third one was, but I had 3. And in the first instance, Nick, when I contacted Bill, you know, with an offer to lease, it took him 12 months to get back to me.
Okay.
All right. So what I'm thinking is that if Brian would be the project lead, I'd like to participate, but I'd like you to act as the realtor, and we would like to submit an offer. And we'll submit an offer. There'll be a few conditions in it because this building has been sitting there empty for 3 years. It was not completed. So it's not a building inspection that we need, Nick. It's a complete investigation by a competent contractor to make sure that the septic system is working, the wells are working, the electrical system, such as it is working or not, so that we can get a sense of, you know, what is the cost to complete this thing.
Okay.
So what I think the building is worth today is about 1.1 million, but I'm going to turn to you, Brian. What do you think if we were going to put in an offer, what do you think the offer should come in at?
Well, I'd reserve the right to change my mind, but I think it would have to come in a little bit less. But does a realtor have the ability to access to pull title to see what kind of mortgage debt is on the property, if any?
No, the realtor can't do that, but a lawyer can. Who are you using for your real estate law these days?
Mostly Steve.
Hang on a second, Bruce. I do that because I have my mortgage stuff.
Oh, I forgot. So keep going there, Nick.
I can pull, it's called purview. So I can see exactly what leverage is on the property. I can see what they mortgaged it for, who they're mortgaging with. I don't know how much of that information I can share, but I can certainly give you the numbers.
It's obviously the less on the property, the better, right? Yeah. Because I mean, it gives him or them or her or whatever, you know, a bit more. I mean, they might not see it as flexibility, but from an offer point of view, you know, if they've got $700,000 of equity and they haven't gotten $1 in income in 4 years, obviously they're not poor, I'm sure, and they've got other interests. Otherwise, this would be resolved, I'm sure. But nevertheless,
yeah,
you know. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't quibble with the 8%. I mean, to me, when you're buying, like, I appreciate getting the buy side right more today than I did 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago before COVID. Not that COVID's been around for 5 years, but in the past, my focus was more like 10 or 20% on the buy side and 80 or 90% on, okay, this is what it is today. Where can I drive this property, right? Because no matter how much, whether it's $100,000, $1 million, or $10 million, I don't want to diminish that, but the more important question is, where is it going to go? Right? Like, how far, if I pay $1 million, is it going to be $1.5 million? Is it likely to be $1.5 million 3 years from now? That's kind of my past thinking, my current thinking with COVID. And to me, COVID has introduced an element of risk or uncertainty into the equation. So getting that buy side number down pat is, in my opinion, more important today than say 3 or 4 years ago.
So Brian, what I've done is I'm sharing my screen, and I did a spreadsheet, and I'm just going to version it, which, Woody, you're now an expert at this, right?
Yep.
So what we're going to do, we're going to call this case 2. All right. So Brian, if we said we're not going to buy at an 8% cap rate, we want a higher cap rate as a purchaser, what would the number change to? Is it not going to be 8%? What would you put in here?
Well, I don't really quibble with 8. Like 8 seems okay. Although you would say, well, it's kind of a rural sort of property, kind of. So I remember buying the Picton property at 10, but I mean, it's a different market, and that was 12 years
So
ago.
hang on a second. I just changed it to 10. That was kind of the number I was going to use. So I'm going to hit the enter key. When I hit the enter key, watch what happens to the fair market value. Okay, you guys ready? Give me a drum roll, Woody.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, I guess it's 20%, or no, 25%, right? Or 8 to 10 is 25%.
So you understand, Woody, that if we buy at a higher cap rate, we're buying at a lower price. That's all it means, right? So if we wanted a 10% cap rate, which is not unreasonable for a rural property, Brian, I'm not arguing, you would offer $750. Nick, what do you think? Mr. Cripps.
I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. In all honesty, I don't know, because this has only come on my radar today, right? So I'd have to look at it just to give it a better. But I mean, from the outside looking in and knowing what the residential alone is in that area, that's probably going to be a stretch. I think going in, $1 million, $1.1 million is probably going to be your ideal scenario from getting anywhere in a negotiation. But I reserve, as Brian just said, the right to look this over a little bit more closely, and certainly review this meeting as well, just so I can educate myself a little bit more on what's there now, what the costs are, what their loan to value is at the moment, and then kind of get a best case scenario together in putting an offer, and what they'll reasonably accept as well.
So what I just did, Nick, I think that's very fair. What I did was I sent to you and Woody and to Brian my 2 spreadsheets. Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
So you'll have it. And what I'll do is, as soon as this meeting is over, I'll download this recording to my computer. I'll upload it to YouTube unlisted. Because what I did do, Nick, was I went through for Woody and for Brian the whole, development of Dunrobin and the plaza, and so there's quite a bit of background information there.
Perfect.
I am very confident, Nick, that I can rent this thing. That, like, I would like to do the leasing on this. I mean, you and I would do it together, but I would be the lead on the leasing. But on the negotiation to buy it, I need you, because the gentleman who owns it, there used to be 2 fellows from India that owned it, but I think one of them bought out the other. So there's a single individual here. And to my way of thinking, this is a great exit. The other thing I would say to you, though, Nick, and you, Brian, and Woody, too, is that you probably should not mention my name in connection with the purchase of this. And the reason for that is I'm very, very well known, it's certainly in that area. And I sold it to these guys. And they may not want to sell it back to somebody like me. I mean, I have nothing but good relations with them for 20 some years, but you know how it is, you don't want to be proven wrong, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, if Brian's name was on it, and Brian, Nick would draw up the offer in your name, because you're the project lead, with an assignment clause, so you could put it in a company.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what I think we should do is we've spent almost an hour together and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I'm glad to see you, Nick, as always. Now, Nick, something else too, that Mr. Woodworth and his wife, Michelle, are going to become more active in terms of being investors in this area, you know, the whole Eastern Ontario region. So it's Matt is somebody, Woody is somebody you should get to know, and he should get to know you. And you might be able to help him further if he needs some tough negotiation, a tough negotiator. And Woody, I don't think I said it to you yet, but Nick's tired of hearing me say it, and Brian's heard me say it. The next time there's a war in the Middle East, we're sending Nick there to settle it.
Which just as a kind of a cap to that, Bruce. So that is the primary reason why I got into the mortgage world, because I was tired of relying on mortgage agents to negotiate directly with banks. Now I can do that myself as well. So I've focused.
That's fantastic.
At the bank.
So that's good news for us too, Brian. If we put in an offer and assuming it was accepted, then I think that what would be very helpful would be to ask Nick to help us with some financing. And
No, absolutely.
Woody, if you're buying something and you have a realtor who also is a mortgage broker, I had my mortgage license, but I was no good at that. Financing just doesn't come naturally to me. But Nick is a better negotiator than I am. He is. I mean, I have my own skills, but Nick is a better negotiator, and I think negotiating with lenders is just as difficult sometimes as negotiating with sellers.
Yeah, and I have access to AB private and a $5 million MIC right now.
No, that's fantastic. So that's great news. That's the kind of thing you would need for that other project we were talking about this morning.
Exactly what we talked about earlier. That's right.
So I've connected all of you guys together, and what I'd ask you to do, Brian, as the project lead, if you don't mind, is put together the deal points, just simple deal points. You know, this is I think where the offer price should go, plus or minus. This is how long we need for the conditions. These are the kind of conditions. This is the kind of deposit, and that goes into the agreement of purchase and sale. But send it to me, and obviously send it, if you don't mind, to Woody and to Nick, and we'll all have our own. And then what I have in mind is that, Brian, as the project lead, you would do what you've done so many other times. We'd bring in a group of investors, and they would put up most of the money, but the inside group, which would be the guys on this call here, would also participate in terms of owning some equity, paying very little money for that. You know, you've done it a million times, and I think that is the right thing, because without Nick or me or you or Woody, this project never gets going, right? So you've done it, and we don't have time today to go through all the different projects that Brian's done, but Woody, he's done these projects where he ends up owning a huge chunk, but most of the money is coming from investors.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And Woody, you can learn a lot from Brian. He's taught, you know, he's very modest, but he's taught me almost as much as I think I've taught him.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
All right. So is there anything else, Nick?
Nope, that's good for me. I'll watch the playback.
Okay, so Brian, you're going to do the deal points memo.
Okay.
And circulate it. So just do a mind dump of what you think should go into the offer. Then Nick will do the second draft. Okay, you do the second draft, Nick, because you'll do your purview thing and you'll think about it. And then Woody and I will put in our 2 cents after that. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. See you guys.
See you. Bye, Woody. Bye, Nick. Stick on the call there, Brian.
You will.
Okay.
Stick on the call, Brian.
Yeah.
There we go. Thanks for doing that, Brian.
No worries.
I really mean it, though. I want you to get back on the horse. I want you to buy the sucker for whatever we can get it for, and obviously make a great success out of it. But it'll also it'll be just something new to do.
I mean, I don't think it's overly hard. I get the biggest challenge will get the right people in place, whether that's the right lawyer to protect us vis-a-vis this litigation, the right contractor to protect us, making sure that we understand.
Is now well into his 40s, and you know, he knows more than he did when I first started working when he was 26.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, it is what it is. But I think we should make a serious run at it. If we get told to fuck off, okay, well, you keep the fucking plaza, you asshole. Excuse my language. We're recording this, but I'm pissed. Look, as somebody who did so much work in Dunrobin to make that a viable village, I mean, it's me.
Yeah,
And
I'm sure.
these guys
if-
are, as far as
yeah.
I'm concerned, excuse my language to the recording, but these guys are pissing, where we eat, and I
Yeah.
don't like it, and I'm pissed. And,
Oh, I
and I
hear you.
want to do something about it. Now, maybe we can't do it, and that is life, but it is a blight on the community. Imagine if you had a nice house, the beautiful house I visited in Picton, and I went next door, opened up a crack house, and the yard was full of garbage, and the windows were broken, and the doors were hanging off of the shingles, and the roof was fucked. I mean, what would that do to your property value?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
And that's what they're doing, and I'm pissed. So again, I apologize to the recording that I use some 4-letter words, but I am mad. And as really, I'm the founder of the Auto Centers, but I'm kind of the founder of the village too, in a way. Right?
Yeah, no, I understand.
All right. So enough of that. So we're going to stop recording now. Hang on a second. I don't want to record the next part. Okay, Brian?
Okay, yeah.